First Smoke family. We got Blue River on and we got Active on today. We've been smoking already. This is the intro. Go to FSOTD.com. Get hooked up with all our sponsors. You already know that. Your family, your First Smoke family. Let's get into it.
Dude, I want to take 10 seconds, full all out. And when I let go, I want it to be like I took a dab because I don't have time. I just want to be able to move and keep it moving.
It is a labor of love when it comes to like, how do we continue to innovate and new ones are going to come. And I'm more excited about the new ones because that's a tool and lever I would want if I was taking different types of concentrates and really having it in my pocket.
You don't want to throw food away. It's the same concept. There is a place for it, just not in our lungs.
First Smoke family, we are live from Spannabis in the heart of Barcelona. We're sitting here with Alex. I know you know him from Active. He's been on the pod before. We got into all kinds of extraction, terpenes. I think we had about 50 different extractions in front of us in the first pod, and we went through and tried all the different ones. And then we got somebody on the pod I know you guys been wanting to hear from. We got Tony from Blue River.
How you doing? Thanks for having me on. Super big fan.
You got to explain a little bit about what you do, Tony, because this is the first time, like, you know, Alex and I got to sit down for damn near 2 hours already, and we dove into devices and all kinds of stuff. A lot of the issues people see in the industry now, we got to kind of talk about. Like, your role is huge in cannabis. Like, could you please talk about what you do a little bit?
Since I was 14, I was exposed to cannabis pretty early. Went overseas into Europe pretty early on, 14 to 16. So I feel like I got influenced and always was an activist for the plant, because when I came back to the United States, no one had what I thought was, you know, the shit. And it was all stuff that I got in high school. It was just brick brown. It looked like the shape of a coffee can sometimes. And I always felt like we could do better, you know, coming, like seeing what I saw in Europe and Sputnik hash, and went all the way through UK, through Amsterdam, very early age. So I feel like I was exposed to something that just didn't exist. I think that was a spark in me that always felt like we can, let's take it. What can we do better? And I started with cultivation, you know, first growing seeds, learning how to grow, just like everyone else, seeing, you know, a California orange grow next to an NL5 haze. You know, you start to get seeds, you start to grow, you start to see the difference in flower, resin production. And at some point, you know, you're making Quizzo from scissor trim, you know, quick wash, you know, with just like take some rubbing alcohol and you're like evaporated, you're on a trays. I mean, it's just natural progression for all of us to like go through, like, how do I get this sticky shit off the scissors? You start eating it, you start trying to dry it. That's all in the 90s. First time I was doing, I guess, rosin was, we used to take a pot of water, boil it in a stainless steel bowl, throw our sift from the grinder, like when you grind up buds, in there, and then take a spoon and press real hard on it. And then that oil that was in there, you'd have to take a razor and scrape it up. That was probably the original rosin. That shit was going on late 90s, early 2000, but never in any kind of scalability, you know. And my older brothers that I was always with, I was always trying to show off to them, like, oh, look what I made next. Look what I made next.
Your journey, though, goes deep into resin farming.
Yes.
For, like, where other people spawn off, right? You get your passion. Yours starts to go down this very niche rabbit hole for a long time.
Yeah.
Talk about that, though, because I want to get into, that's the basis for what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I think there becomes, at some point, some people are like, it's, I think maybe a little bit beyond passion. It's like an obsession, which is okay to admit to, because, you know, we all go through different times in life. This plant came to me during the 90s. I was also in music, film, other things, and car accident, opiates. Pretty normal story for how people fall into cannabis. So I felt like I was an activist for the plant, because from a medicinal standpoint, I saw the impact on myself, you know? And so that was between, you know, being exposed to something good at a young age in Europe and also using it kind of as a patient later, pushed me to, how do we get every available use out of this plant, and how do we make it as efficient as possible to, like, say, the masses. That started in the early 2000s. So since then, I've just been really diving deep into everything I could learn about the plant, meet different growers, different people that write books, Gordon and Jorge Cervantes and Skunk Man, all these elder individuals I'd met on my path that help influence everything. So it's like gathering information and really just kind of being obsessed to see how far we can take it and what are we missing, because we're second-rate citizens. We've been repressed in every country, continent on the planet. And at some point, like, I guess inside, you either just say, kind of fuck the rules in the government and just move forward. And that's what I decided to do in like 1996.
Yeah.
I've always had that attitude, but it's really about the plant and the resin and like efficiency to the masses. I just always wanted to see this plant at its full potential.
But where's your science side come from? Because you specifically dove deep into the science side of terpenes, extraction, how things are actually separated, like all that. Like what? Because not everyone can just be passionate about resin and then dive in like you did.
I think my background just, I'm firstborn Italian, so that being on your shoulders, you know, from everyone on our side was like general contractor, engineer, architect. I did go down that path, and I feel like my brain was very much engineering, went down like bachelor science engineering, got my general contractor's license, all simultaneously, like having two identities maybe, which all of us always did. Yeah, I would say that just my brain in general, since early on, I was always like a Lego nerd or engineering type. I always was inventing stuff at an early age. I was always drawing things out. I'm a very highly maybe imaginative like type of person. But having the background with the Italian side, everyone's like, you have to work in one thing for 10 years, be the labor, be the manager, be the boss, be every position, you know, and that's like how the construction side will teach you. So I do feel like that conditionment for 10 years led me to like visualize something and then think, oh, that's attainable, so we can build it. If you can see it, you can build it, it becomes real. And I think that built confidence. And maybe that's where that comes from, is that having something else.
This match is like made in heaven, obviously, because with your science and knowledge, because one of the biggest battles in our industry right now, and you see so many companies that have a rosin pen or a rosin vape or a distillate vape or a resin vape. And then when they switch over to a different type of extraction or a different farm or a different material, this one isn't smoking like that one. This one's not working. Oh, we're doing 2.0, 3.0, 5.0. Like we see this constant chase. And then we also see brands, as soon as something's working, everyone jumps on the bandwagon, and not in a negative way and just, oh, that's working, go. And we're seeing that with different pens. They get picked up by everybody and then the wave crashes because now the rosin is thicker, or it's not working like it used to. Or like, what's the issue with being able to perfect the pen for resin or rosin?
I think that in the past, like you said, everyone's chasing it. And, you know, when we look at, you can talk to probably 10 different hash makers and you ask them, how do they decarboxylate their rosin? They're going to give you 10 different answers, right?
10 different methods,
10 different
times.
Right. They could do it from fresh. They could do it from cure. Everyone has it with regulators. I got nitrogen or whatever. It's under vacuum. It really doesn't matter. The device itself needs to accommodate a bandwidth, right? So so if we start to break down resin glands and quality, and I think at this point now we all can subscribe to what's a premium select, and a full spectrum. So, you know, if it's a 45 on up, you have to accommodate for that in a device, because you're going to have more lipids, waxes, and your TAC and terps won't be as pure as, say, we just ran the 90U. But you also want a device that will accommodate that person. It's like, I'm just going to press this 90U at 165. I don't care. Right. And so that's where I think where that logic comes from is really coming from the end consumer. Yeah. And when I think Alex and I, what we try to do is put ourselves in the end consumer standpoint, because we are consumers.
We're consumers.
We
talked about that last time, right?
Yeah, we're big time.
It's like there's a certain like outcome that we want for tastemakers, hash makers, right? And I think it's interesting from the first times that we met, where hair straightening rosin. Shout out to the ABX days. It was kind of funny. Flower rosin, right? You get a pack. People are like, oh, this is the new shit. And it's Tony sitting there with the fucking hair
Or six.
You're cleaning it up after it dries. You're like,
Dude, now you got, damn, this is the temperature. You got to wait. Here's the clock. Hold on, let me put the clock on. And so he's always been methodical about that. And I think what's cool about what Tony does with his extracts is that he also pays homage to kind of the old world, especially being in Barcelona, right? Huge hash culture, right? Some of the world's best hash is here in different forms of it. We were just talking about that. You go into the club, it's like they're down 20 different SKUs on the menu. They haven't even got the rosin yet. You know what I mean? And so it's unbelievable to see that. And I think that's
like an international all-star.
Yeah, it's what's unique about a place like this on the small craft, and you're seeing that. And I think for us, in a lot of ways, and what Tony continues, at least what I've observed over time, is he keeps pushing the boundary. Because there are different. Not all rosin, as we know, not all extracts are created equal, and that's hard when you're trying to put together how that's going to work in a device. And I think the core of it, Tony said it, and I think you and I have talked about it last time, Lance, is like, we're consumers first. So we also know how that strain tastes in flower. We know how it dabs. And so when it gets into a device, it's like, shit, it's like, it's close, it's not, all right, how do we run that, right? Oh, maybe I could do this. And he'll do that, right? And that's because Tony is chasing kind of that experience as well, just like we all are. But to do that consistently is very difficult. Just because hash, and really high quality hash in general, whether it's rosin, any formula or any form of it, right? It's batch by batch, and that in and of itself creates an entirely different complexity. And I think one of the things that we connected on, this is prior to Active, right, was, I remember when we talk about extraction and we talk about the resin on the plant, like when we talk about growing. Sure, there's methodology around soil. We talked about that, right? Like, is it better under lights? Is it better, assisted light? Is it better full sun? Is it better depth? Like, there's all these different modalities. If you've been in it for a really long time, you've seen all those. And then if you got into the extraction side and you start really going back and you're like, oh shit, like I'm actually growing something on the plant specifically for this. If you're going straight to liquid, because in the past, people are just taking their trim, their bee buds, but they're not going whole plant. And so long time ago, that was something that we targeted. I think when Tony and I connected and got more deep about some of the work that he was doing, I think you had found somebody that's actually trying to grow resin at scale.
Yeah.
And I think that was very different because we weren't just going by flower for this or that. It was really around, all right, what runs well in solvents, what runs well in hydrocarbon, what runs well at that time, CO2, ethanol, right? So all those different, inputs, it's how you're growing the resin on the plant, right? And so I think that's a part of the journey to getting to, as he spoke about, the different complexities of the finished product and how do you make a device for that, right? And I think that it's funny, we joke about it too when we talk about the Axle Mini Air and all the things that we do, because for us, we care so much about like, is this something that we're going to consume? What's in it? We talked about supply chain, right? Knowing what, a chemical resistant thermograde plastic is, what type of chemical tests have been done on it, right? What terpenes are you looking at, right? And I think those are some of the things that we nerd out about because we're consuming it. And there's other people looking for the medicine that's created that way, or just, the experience that you get from amazing hash. And so, I think that's a love letter for all of us to it because, as we all know, that's sometimes the best form of an experience when it comes to cannabis.
Well, yeah, because at the end of the day, when you realize, oh, the plastic I use is going to cost me more money, and the type of wick I use is probably going to cost me a little more money because I want to do quality, but you believe in the end product. So if this is about dollars and that's all it's about, you'll be like, don't worry about it, just push it out. But because of this constant chase of what we're literally sitting here today, where now you have this work with Tony where you're trying to constantly find like, how do we have the best hardware in the game for rosin and resin? I mean, that chase, everyone's trying to figure that out right now. You see that at every facility. Anybody who's doing cultivation has their resin, right? And then the number one thing is like, well, what are you using? Like what hardware?
One thing I could touch to that is kind of the same thing that you asked Tony about. How'd you get started? How are you doing it? Like, same. It's just curiosity. You're always on from our perspective, you're chasing that because we're always looking for fire oil, and we're always looking for how the experience is in the device. You know when it's good. You know what I mean? So like, I think that's a part of it. And it's funny because history for us is we're always improving. Every version that you're trying is the worst version, technically, because there's another version coming, right? And I think that's what gets us so excited. And Tony knows that. Like, I always say it because I like to lay that out, but the future of what's coming is even better, right? Because of what we are actually the holy grail of where we're trying to get to from an extract in your pocket side, right? And so,
First Smoke family, Promix is storming the cocoa market, and they're one of the few companies integrating mycorrhizae and bacillus into their loose core products. You can expect the same level of consistency, quality in their full core line. What's cool is Promix is one of the few companies in the market to integrate active ingredients directly into the products. In the US, their loose fill products contain mycorrhizae, while in Canada, they include both mycorrhizae and bacillus. This means you're getting products that will help maximize your plant's full potential, ensuring to always reach your highest level. And if you're looking to get your hands on some of the brand new drops of Promix with the bacillus, with the mycorrhizae, go to pthorticulture.com or go to the Promix Instagram and their socials to get connected so you don't miss the brand new drops. Consistency, Promix. First Smoke family, we are linked up with the Plantsman Group, and so should you. Making sure your IPM predatory bugs and beneficial insects get to you just like they should, alive and hungry, ready to do work in your garden. Doesn't matter the size, the Plantsman Group has you covered. Plantsman Group is a grower-focused company working to bridge the knowledge gap in cannabis regarding the use of beneficial insects to control pests. They will make a custom IPM plan just for the First Smoke family for free. Provide top-tier customer service and offer free shipping on orders over 200. Go to theplantsmangroup.com/firstsmoke and get hooked up. Trust me, it's a game changer. Let's get back into it. What's that come from? Just learning off of the foundation of we built this and then here's the little changes we would make to better it?
I think there's a lot of that process. It's also understanding the oil, right? How stable it is. We talk a lot about stability. It's such an important part. But I also think that there's a lot of other components that go into it, right? The airflow, how is it going to work with the tank? What's the engine that's going to be used, right? How are you heating the engine? How are you controlling it? Like there's so many little levers. And again, you got to know within a band how that oil is being made. And as you know, we're kind of all victims to it. We've seen the rosin and solventless push, right? And what happens when things get commercialized, because rosin and solventless, right, is a higher end product, charge more dollars. But then you saw a lot of the market in other places pushing out food grade rosin. We've seen this, right? Not as stable. What happens to the car? So people are paying more for a product they don't really like because it's not the same solventless experience we all are used to. And then now, like, people are like, oh, I'm good on that, right? And so it's almost like at times for solventless vapes, it's like trying to make solventless vapes great again in that regard, right? Because they have such a bad taste. Some of these people on some of these like food grade rosin, they call it solventless, but it's, you've seen so many, you were talking about it earlier.
Bro, you go from liquid gold to peanut butter. Like that's the variation of like what I've seen for rosin.
Yeah.
Where I have some people that'll show me literally like wet, like honey, like liquid honey, and then flip it to what you're talking about. And then the same, a jar from a different, let's just say food grade is it's like peanut butter in a jar. And so to think that you have to have a product that is reliable with something that isn't, right? Like the range is vast from that product, how it's going to burn or even how hot it's going to burn, right? Because a lot of it too sometimes is Skittles is such a crazy terp that anytime you take a dab, it's like an explosion, almost burns, right? It almost burns because it's so terpy. I'm sure you have to burn that at a different rate than.
I think that would be great for the audience. It's like, Tony, talk about like food grade rosin, what that actually, like, let's boil it down for them, because that's one of the things that Tony was really good at, is taking the whole plant and getting every part of it out. And this is a part of it, the chips and all these things. They're going to let you kind of talk about like the whole, what's left to be squeezed, right?
Well, I'll say this. So we've known each other a long time, and we haven't done a project yet. I helped him on other vape and other device. Hey, try this, like over the years. Yeah. What do you think this is like? But I can tell you that when I said to him, we're finally ready, is you have to go through enough types of runs. So you have to say, okay, if I'm doing dry sift or static sift at like 99%, and you say, okay, this has been freshly cured 1 month, or maybe it's been cured for 6 months. And so there's trends in the market for sift, hash, full melt, isolator, like we're talking about. So you have to understand the metrics that's out there of different types of hash makers to come up with a concept of what you want this to be good for. And so we're active, and I think where it really works out well is that we spend a lot of time on, what type of ceramic, what type of surface, what type of shape. Is it a 3D trough? Can we run wires through it? Do they have to be below it? What's the size of the wiring? What's the type of ceramic? All these like proprietary changes was coming from myself saying, hey, we have to have a window, right? So if this type of oil, and everything comes down to TAC and terps, right? And what's the leftover percentage? And if you're using outdoor, sun-grown, or indoor, and you're going from live to cured, that's going to change different substances of the other percentage. And that's what we have to look for when we're creating a ceramic stone like this that's absorbing oil. And it's such an efficiency of absorbing the oil and then vaporizing off the oil so it doesn't leave residual. But you have to set a range for that. And so that's why I recommended it in the packaging and what we're doing, saying, hey, of all the testing that we did, a premium spectrum like 70, 2 through like 150, 149, 150, somewhere in that range. Because we all know 1st through 6th pull could do a lot of different things. The hash maker is going to know. But if you're in a 6 and 5 star and you're doing like a premium select between your 1st and 6th washes, maybe you throw your 90 in the first 2 washes, then you pull it and you go 3 more. If you're getting that same range, that's what this device is for. So the full spectrum is 45, 160, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of people, and it's just like everyone is taking their 45 to 89 or 45 to like 69. And they're taking their 160 or the 159. Those are like what we would say food grade. That's going into gummies that you see onto the market. And so some people want to be able to go, that's the widest range, is a 6 washes, premium full spectrum, which is wide here. And whether you go from cured, freshly cured, like sifted, or you go from live, this device will handle it.
This is a lot. And it's strain specific too, because 1 through 6 washes, on GMO is not the same as.
This is the detail that we went into the atomizer of that surface, and the surface changed a lot. And we also have to take in consideration, and I've had this conversation and something that I probably will put out because I realize it's not there, but a decarboxilation chart for, let's say, live rosin in, say, a Puffco or in any device. What's the time and temperature at 450 degrees to 550 degrees? How much time is it sitting in this, right, vaporizer, and are we really getting fully decarbed? And when you actually look at the test results of that, you'll be shocked that it's not fully decarbed. So you're really just absorbing into your lungs a semi-decarb, right? And so then we have to also consider, if you're not fully decarbing your oil, which everyone is just doing 204, 180, they're trying to low temp it and they're going like days, right? And so you have to take that into accommodation, that if the oil is unstable and it's put into there, right? How does it stabilize? Is there releasing mechanisms within the device itself for those air pockets? And when you're vaporizing the oil and it's going through a stone and going out the sides and coming back up, that also creates a negative or a positive pressure. There's a lot of detail, extreme amount of detail that went into the device itself and in the R&D. And these are the kinds of details when when they said, hey, what did you play a role in? It's those things, because ultimately,
being able to also have the common language is very important. How do you what Tony's talking about? He just said a lot of stuff, and people if they don't understand what he's saying, or the people that do, right? And it's how do you translate that to, all right, I can visualize what's going on, how it's what issues we have to solve in the experience. And I think in anything, like even when you add a composite to the core, right? Like, because they have a different heating trait. Another thing with rosin, right? In general, the decarb is really an interesting point too, because you're introducing heat to something over and over again, depending on how you're vaporizing the product, right? So that's obviously shifting the composition of the oil if it's more unstable, right? Or if it's more stable, then it's going to have a longer shelf life throughout the life of the entire tank or whatever the volume size is. And that's also an important part, because In other type of extracts, that's not the same, right? And so I think it's being introduced to a cycle rate of heat, and then it's cooling down, and you got to recycle it again, and it's different when we're on a rig and you're dabbing.
Is that why you're seeing color separation after you take a bunch of dabs in a pen, and you'll see like colors start to change at closest to the heating element?
Yeah. And so that's stuff we try to avoid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And with rosin, that's what, so everyone's like, oh, do you have a gram solution like live rosin or rosin? Let's say hash rosin.
600 hits in.
Yeah. This is designed for 1 milligram per second. So it's a half gram. It goes 450 seconds. And I had to take 1 second draw, 3 second draws, 6 second draws, 10 second draws, put it down, wait 15 minutes in each type of oil to figure out like what we should do with things. Cause as you know, if I'm a consumer and I'm spending $50 on an all-in-one or more, and I get halfway through, I'm okay with a little bit of flavor loss as long as the effect's still there and I could recharge it if it's still hitting, right? And with this, it's such an efficiency of absorption and vaporization that it was outperforming, let's say, a Kung Fu or an O2 by 30 to 100% more dosing capability. And that's how I look at it. So if I have a half gram and I have 450 seconds, it doesn't matter if I'm taking 10 seconds or 6 seconds, I still have that there. It's not going to clog, and I'm going to get everything out of what's there. And the way that it's designed and it's flowing towards that way into the trough was important little details that this wasn't just like, in a month project. And I'm not sure anyone else, tried this before. I'm just not sure any other companies really set up to handle changing and design and composite and information as quickly as Active was. So like people could say, hey, I need to update something or I need to change something. That could take like several months if you're not dialed in. Yeah. And like I would make a change, and like it was a Monday.
Yeah,
Tuesday.
we're able to understand what are quick changes versus long change timelines, right? And so I think framing that on the outset is very important, so you stay on track of what you're developing. And again, we have constant, parallel, I would say now, multi-year product pipelines and development pipelines. And so like that's why it's so exciting, because all the extracts that we work with, as you know, behind the scenes when we talk about it, it's all the complex new extracts or the consistent ones that we see that we all like to have to share and taste. Oh, taste this. Same thing with flower. We ask you a very simple question: what are you smoking on?
Yeah.
You tell us you don't have some. Like, let's try it.
Yeah, 100%.
And so I think that part of it really, that's why the passion is such an important part. And I think you talk about it on your journey from a podcast perspective and all the great folks that you have on. It's an honor for us to be on and talk, especially here in Barca. And Tony's journey around the passion for us, like it's so cool from a plant perspective, because it is a labor of love when it comes to like, how do we continue to innovate? And it's understanding those levers and new ones that are going to come. And I'm more excited about the new ones. Like I always joke with them, I'm like, oh, dude, in a couple months you're going to be like, oh man, how did I live without this? And so those are the things I think that get me internally excited, because that's a tool and lever I would want if I was taking different types of concentrates and really having them in my pocket and be able to go and get the experience that we'd be proud of.
We find that amongst the most creatives and like serial entrepreneurs too, is like, what's next? Like, all right, let's do 3.0. And it's like, so let me ask though, what was the purpose of you guys coming together? Like, it's obviously we want a wide range, but it was like, we need to develop a pen for the industry. Like, what was it?
We're in the Blue River evolved into like the adult use retail. We do this, it's solventless only retail. So we could see in the beginning, it was 2% of the market in mass. And then our store sells like 60% rosin and rosin vape. And I didn't feel like they had any hardware that offered what I wanted. And then I explored out there and tried Kung Fu and O2, and it wasn't there, because I'll tell you what's lacking. I've known them for a long time. They're from the cannabis industry, from growing and extract making. So that's important to me, and if somebody behind that company is like innovative and a visionary and pushing forward, then when you buy products, not just these devices, any devices that they offer, they're a hardware solutions company for the cannabis industry from cannabis people. And so they have, hundreds and hundreds of accounts, and they've been doing this a long time. And that's important. So when you develop something, we get feedback. And that's what we're trying to do, is more or less make round one here, get it out to everyone that's from home grows to, craft corporate to corporate, get everybody trying it, because everyone has a hash maker. This is designed for a pretty big window. I made it so that it wasn't like really hard. You can't really fuck it up, except like fill it up, wait to cap it, and let it saturate, because this is a different type of stone that was developed for this. And there's little just simple key points. Yeah. But other than that, it's so that we can get to the feedback, because we're already in the next 2.0 or 3.0. Yeah. We're already there. We just want to make sure that everyone else is agreeing.
Yeah. Well, and just knowing the pen too, because like when I talk to Alex, I've yet to 22 years in the industry. I've yet to be around someone when it comes to actual hardware that speaks about it with this much knowledge base.
Absolutely.
And so I'm not around anybody like that.
Look, I'm gonna park the active side to that, but really where our passion would come from, right? And it's like, because of the understanding of the cultivation and manufacturing side, and understanding different modalities of extraction, what we're talking, understanding liquid, we're one of the very few people. So when I sat down with you last time, we're very privileged in a lot of ways to know some of the know-how of what Tony does. We've worked together that way, right? So some of the methodologies are understood and also applied from targeting from a solventless perspective, right? And then from a hydrocarbon perspective, we're very lucky to have E from Holy Water, right? And so if some people know him and not, and again, we all have shared circles. So we've all been a fan of each other's work. We were just enabled to create a platform at the time around like resin farming at scale to like, okay, now we're going to use like, I'm not going to talk about distillate and CO2 and all that shit that was in the past, right? But like, E from Holy Water and hydrocarbon, like very innovative. All the different textures, all the different liquids, like clarity, terps, all that stuff, right? We're privileged to have that in our house, right? We're privileged to have Tony from Blue River and the solventless tech and all these things that happen. And that knowledge, we're just so lucky to have in a place when that helps us really think about how do they interplay with each other. You're always going after like, how is the resin best represented, right? And because of that helps us have this shared language around extract. That's what makes us different in a lot of ways, right?
I think it's internally healthy competition, right?
Yeah.
First Smoke family, are you a commercial cultivator or retailer and you want to get heavily discounted hydroponic equipment? Grow Generation Pro Portal just launched. The Pro Portal gives you exclusive, heavily discounted access to top-tier hydroponic products direct. It's a one-stop shop for all your hydroponic needs, spanning every category you rely on. Plus, they ensure fast, reliable delivery anywhere in the United States. Need a customized quote? Want to track your spending? The Pro Portal lets you do both, and so much more, including providing easy access to your partners with its cutting-edge features. It's designed to meet the needs of today's fast-paced industry. Ready to take the business to the next level? Go to growgeneration.com and sign up with the Pro Portal today and get hooked up. First Smoke family, no matter the guest, we're rocking raw and Elements papers. Whether it's the Elements king size wide, the raw fatties without the crease, so you still get the king size wide, but with unbleached and uncreased. Something we've been loving on the show is the raw king size blacks. And when we're lighting up, the Phoenix. This is awesome. Flintless residue, windscreen with a poker. No matter what products you like from Raw, you can check out genuineraw.com, and that gets you to all their affiliate links to purchase these products direct from them to make sure they're raw authentic. Genuineraw.com, First Smoke of the Day sent you.
Because and we talked about this before, it's like I'm not against BHO hash makers. Yeah. Yes, I have my lane. I stick in my lane. And same thing with E and other people, no, if you know what you're doing, you can make compliant, super safe, live resin, from BHO. It's possible.
Let's leave one breadcrumb for everybody. If you know the process is that sometimes you learn from each other.
Yeah.
And so being open-minded is never a bad thing, and I think that's what's cool in the industry in general, right? And it's it's awesome, right? Certain cultivars react differently from wash to blast.
Yeah, and some of our biggest hash makers are most well known started with hydrocarbon extraction and now do solventless. Like that, and people are like, "Oh, he's the solventless king," and it's like, yeah, he started with open blast.
I just like good weed, man. You know what I mean? I just like good weed. You know, so it's like,
well, and that's why I like that you guys are so passionate about this, because it's one thing to just have good rosin and dab it. It's another thing to now put it in a device that some idiots leave in their car, or they'll put in their pocket and they're sweating and heating up, right? And they're damn near cooking it in their pocket. But it's like the amount of range, like you say, of use and where it can go and how this thing needs to perform under 100 different conditions. And then that's just including not the resin inside. That's if it's cold. I'm taking this snowboarding. Is it working? Is it? Oh, it's not now. Wow, that's weird. We never thought of that. You talked about the stone. Could you talk a little bit more about what is that?
Let's say you look at a white ceramic, lab grade ceramic in a Puffco, right? It's white. So that's A grade. Not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying it's an A grade.
It's a type of ceramic.
It's a type of ceramic.
With different pore size and density. And
you look at everyone's different vapor devices. Like Kung Fu had like a black speckled, ceramic. And so we were able to then dial in, okay, we can change percentages. So Active was that detailed with the actual type of ceramic. Where's the ceramic come from? What's the quality of the ceramic? What's the mix load of the ceramics? Here's every type of ceramic to try. What tastes better? What performs better? And it's not just in the first part of it, but throughout the consistency of it. And so like with the Active Mini Air, I put efficiency at the top. Like if I'm somebody for an all-in-one, I want to make sure that this thing just keeps going and going and going, and I get like the best experience out of it. And
the 200th hit, you want to taste like the first 2 or 3,
like 300. Yeah.
Okay.
So like I want it to, before I start to see the fall off, yes, you need the 250 to 300. But it's really
resaturation rate, all that stuff.
Yeah, the resaturation rate with the stone.
With rosin, dude, that's a very...
It's difficult. And so you've got to make a ceramic that's porous enough that will absorb. And so with this one, there's not like a regulation, but you actually want this, in my opinion, from a vaporizer. So if you were to just sit there and take 10-second rips, right? Eventually it's going to get to what I call a kind of a dry. First you're going to get real rip.
Things cooking.
But it's designed with such a way it's not going to burn the oil, but what'll happen is it'll get a dry hit.
Yeah, you'll taste just the ceramic.
You'll just taste the ceramic.
Damn, I wondered why this happens.
So it's actually a good thing, because then if you watch what happens,
it's full vaporization.
It's full vaporization, and then you just set it down and wait 15 minutes, and you're fully saturated again. And so
I've tried different vapes and wondered why it's like puttering. Like you're like, damn, I don't know, man.
Yeah, it won't happen until like with this one, you would have to hit like 2 10 seconds. And by your third one, it'll start. And that's what I did in my mind. I'm like, oh, if I really want to get like ripped and see stars, I'm going to go 2 10 seconds. Right. And that's like heavy. And I would love to have you have the challenge.
Oh my God, it'll be funny.
I'll pull out my phone and do a true 10 seconds.
Have some fun with it. People love that.
I had somebody charging it. Somebody was charging mine.
I was like, oh, fuck.
The one thing I can say with Alex too, though, like what you hand me are some of the, like, I smoke a bunch of random stuff, but then Alex hands me this limoncello and I tuck this away and I'm like, damn, this is good, man. I keep going back to it. It's like, whenever we get together, bro, I trust in whatever you hand me, even the resin stuff, because I'm like, man, this is fucking great. And I love a good vape, and I don't even ask like solventless solvent. I'm just like, this is phenomenal. I like this. I'm enjoying this.
If you know how to, like, just if you look at just, COAs and you look at testing scores, like a really comprehensive one, how it was made to that extract, right? In its purest form, or what the input material was. Like we talked about strains, right? Like Straudianas are fucking incredible in rosins, right? Same with papayas. Like some of the best rosin flavors that you'll get, especially in vape, are papaya based in that family, right? And I think it would outperform even some of the resin that you would see in that category. But there's certain aromas and things that are captured within the hydrocarbon chain that just water won't pull. And so that's also important, because on those cultivars with that flavor profile, if you want the depth of it, not just the front, but the mid and back end of it, right? You're going to get a more complex flavor, right? And so some strains are going to run better, like GMOs run really good in rosin, right? You got some of those, like, and so especially papayas, I'll come back to that because it's one of my favorite. Anything that's papaya based and in that family, it bangs in rosin.
It does. And the flavor lasts.
And it lasts. It's on your tongue. It's amazing.
And so that has to do with the actual terpenes. Like, what do you think about that as a solventless guy? Let me ask that, because, man, we lost so much of our resin where, like, as a grower, it's just not profitable. It doesn't make sense for me to, and I send my trim to get BHO'd, and then all my good flower sells is flower. Or if you're a rosin farmer, you're growing specific strains just for rosin. But some of the strains I grow for flower have nuances and have flavors that aren't represented in the rosin field.
So that comes down to like understanding the resin and not being afraid to go outside the box. So people get stuck in it has to be fresh frozen and live. And I really don't subscribe to that. I think it comes down to the profile. And so if you're growing something, and this is a really funny thing. So let's pretend we take one of your varieties and it's fresh frozen. We cut it down. We make live rosin. Let's say it's really high in monoterpene, so it's scratchy on the throat in a rosin, right? And then we take it to cure, and then we've cured it now, right? And then we're going to decarb it. So now we go from live material to a resin that's been pressed out, that's now been homogenized and cured out, and now we're going to go decarb it. Right?
Different flavor.
Why are we taking the plant live if we're just going to allow it to cure and then decarb it? So not every plant, in my opinion, in all of the years that I've been doing this, is made for a live extraction process. So having freshly cured material, or having an understanding of why you cut down, right, and allow sugars, amino acids, and the initial head itself structure and the stalk is fully hydrated. And when that breaks, there's a vulnerability right there and at the low bulbous. And so people aren't thinking about that like a jelly donut. And if you look at something that's like 4 or 5 or 6 days cured, it's still clear. It's just shrunk down a little bit, and the stalk has shrunk in a little bit. And now that variety might actually wash better. And so what you might be experiencing when the plant's alive, it's high in monoterpenes. 80% of the terpenes are lost in the curing process of mono. And now you've entered into sesquiterpene, which is more floral and smoother. So if you enjoy the smoke in a cured flavor in your joint, and you're not getting that in your extracts because the mids are up too high, right, and it's washing out everything that's supposed to be in that dynamic range, then cure it for 4 or 5 days till it snaps, and then wash it and try it.
Interesting.
That's interesting, actually.
Yeah.
Because when I think about that from, when we think about terps off-gassing or changing, that's what Tony's basically saying. When the plant's being dried, like, there's different changes. That's why cured resin is different than live, or even rosin. Cured, all the hash that's made from sift, and dried material versus live rosin and frozen. It's interesting to think about it that way, because the plant, it's chemically changing when it's going
so
when
when do you
when do you want that chemical change to happen is actually a really good. I just thinking about that right now. So from a
stability standpoint, so I'll just give your audience a big tip, so no one ever asks me.
So stop asking.
We just had magnifying glasses on the whole time. He's like talking about the bulbous and the
but like not just him, but I'm saying like no one else in the world. When people ask me on DMs over the last decade, I tell them the same thing. All that flawn and all the fire shit that I made in California and LA and stuff, that came from freshly cured sift into rosin that I then deconstructed by repressing the rosin with different screen sizes and different sequences to get different things back out of the rosin, and then rebuild that and make designer dabs. You could do that with blend washes. People didn't want to do blend washes. They don't want to do multi-textures. And now they're like kind of getting into it. I've always called those super concentrates, because I agree with hash makers. It's not an unadulterated raw form like 6-star hash. Once we make rosin, it's now an extraction of that, and you're expelling out the oil from the heads. Now it's not unadulterated. It's been adulterated somewhat by heat, right? And so we're already past that. So that's where I think there was conflict in the past. But at the end of the day, if you want to stabilize your resin, you don't want to start with fragile, like a grape that's just perfectly wet. If you just give it a little bit of time, then you can get the skin to be a little bit harder. If the point is to get rid of the skin, because you need that little separation. Otherwise you have a hydrophobic and hydrophilic reaction. So that's where water plays into it. And that's why you see chalky rosin versus wet batter rosin. So people that understand that and the homogenation process, they're really good at creating a slower cure that creates that microcrystallization without heat. And then there's the ones that's a jam that has heat. I think in the hash world, hash makers want to make unadulterated, non-heat introduced to hash and the least amount of THC conversion into rosin. And some people are scared to venture out to super concentrates, but I feel like the consumer is ready for that.
I think a lot of it's marketing.
Yeah, it's brighter.
Because,
it's different. Yeah,
because when you talk about like, oh, and then some extractors were this and that, and it's like, yeah, and then now we call it a thumbprint, and it's rosin with this, and because it's got a clever name, it's 150 a gram, you know. But that's all marketing. And it's also the reason why this whole podcast exists. People like this is the reason we get to get these gems, because you're breaking it down to such a scientific way, and your understanding is so critical and being like not afraid to say like, no, yeah, this is what we have to do to get to this end result. And I actually like the cured version better than this. And it's not from a place of like, well, I make more money on it if I say this, or you're saying I like the cured version because there's less static in my throat, or it's a cleaner flavor, it burns cleaner, or whatever. Like, I like that process for you is always chasing like, what do I think is best? So if you were to put a BHO or let's say a butane extraction or any solvent extraction, and it outperforms the solventless version, you would say that. The shopping spree begins. Cultivators globally trust Drip Hydro. Whether your nutrient solution is in powder form or liquid form, Drip's got you covered. And you know we treat you like family. First Smoke 10 is the discount code. Whether you're in store or online at driphydro.com, doesn't matter. We get you hooked up. driphydro.com. Clean, effective, affordable. Cultivators, Under Canopy Lighting is changing the game. And with that, Faven Under Canopy Lighting. They're one of our premier sponsors, and it's a brand we truly believe in. If you want to check out favenlighting.com, you can get all the answers to what Under Canopy is and is how it's changing the game. And guess what? You're family, so we hook you up. The code is FSOTD, and you get hooked up with Faven Lighting. They put together a full layout of how you would set your facility or grow room up using their Under Canopy lighting. Whether you're using CMH, double-ended, fluorescents, LEDs, it doesn't matter. Faven Lighting has you covered. Go to favenlighting.com, use the code FSOTD, get hooked up, and change your grow game. Come on, cultivators.
I have no problems agreeing when he hands me something in the solvent-based extraction where I literally will go, fuck.
He'll say, you're cheating.
You're cheating, motherfucker. Because like what we're both doing in our world is because when he means that the art of deconstructing or rebuilding and that kind of stuff, if you're mechanically doing it or not really, we're just getting to
longer.
We just takes
more process, more steps.
Right, more steps. But ultimately what we're trying to do is standardize a consumer experience, right? Because if you think of live resin, you want it to be a certain experience out of a vape or out of a dab. And now there's only a couple textures and a couple things that you would say, this is what I want it to be. It's either going to be like a crystallized little jam, or it's going to be this texture. But in the vape world, we know that high terpenylene, high limonene, high pinene, these types of varieties that sometimes won't come off in a live wash, but maybe in a freshly cured wash. And case in point, I used to do lemon tree. So we used to run lemon tree both in solventless and in solvent, and I would extract terpenes for the solvent side, and we'd enter them into same competitions like Emerald Cups and different things. And quite often I would win, but I would lose. Where I would win in the BHO side, and we're like, the solventless side's never going to take off.
He's entering solventless products into the BHO category.
Correct. And I finally won one.
He's that guy.
I was that guy.
Fuck the whole system up.
And I did fuck it up one year at Emerald Cup, and they were like, okay, you won the BHO Cup in the vape. And they were like, but we don't want to give it to you. We're going to rewrite it as if this is the first solventless one because someone else entered a solventless one. And now you have taken first place in solventless.
Really grab the trophy and scuff it up a little bit. Here you go, bro. Fucking A. Yeah.
But no, that was my last one with in hardware that they developed, which was a jelly sauce. And
That was your high terpene.
Yeah, so I'm bringing that back because
that was your high cannabinoid.
Yeah, and ultimately, and I think
high potency.
And I think ultimately, like, I'm looking at it to answer your question, I'm looking at it from a completely biased standpoint. I am a consumer. If you're trying to get into a vape device and you like smoking flower, you want it to be really close to the flower, and it better be 10 times better flavor than combusting through flower if you're vaporizing. And if it doesn't smell and taste and feel like what you did from the flower, you have problems with that as a consumer. It doesn't feel right. And so
you just like something's missing. God, and you just find yourself going back and being unfulfilled. And like, let me ask you this. You seem like the right person to ask this. Like, man, why CRC just murdered the resin market so heavily? Like, why? Oh, because it kills me inside, because I got to see before, middle, and after. And it makes me weep inside, because I just thought, wow, our industry is such a cool place. And we have this great option for, resin farming at such an interesting level. And now we have this palette of colors where solventless, solvent. Oh, you like CO2. I never like CO2, but CO2. Like, we have all these different versions. Like, it's like yellow batter, and my buddy used to run one 24/7. Literally, they take shifts in Southern California, and Santa Ana is a hub. But why did CRC kill a lot of the resin market?
It's interesting enough, because I used to make this product flan, and I was like really the only one that made it. Some people helped me. It's a complicated process, and it was a really unique product, and I would always get called out for CRC. So like, I didn't want to seem stupid at the time, because I was just not in that world for a long time. And I was like, man, what is CRC? What is CRC? And like, so
it's a total hydrocarbon thing.
I was like, Google CRC. I was like, what the fuck? I'm not making CRC rosin. The fuck is CRC rosin? I was like, I got to learn everything I can about CRC. So I started learning, and I started inquiring and going deeper into filtration and what it's up. And like, from a scientific side of it, from just a black and white side of it, you can understand why CRC exists. So if there's a raw oil that's made, whatever raw oil is made, and really when we're talking about full spectrum, so we have to be really clear. I like definitions, and some people like to subscribe to them. Hash to me is not hash what maybe the rest of the world sees. Honey oil and hash, like hash is intact, unadulterated heads. Once we make oil, yes, we can say that everything's hash oil, but that's what hash is. And there's full spectrum. Hydrocarbon is a full spectrum. It's a full spectrum oil. It's grabbing every single terpene and every single cannabinoid and ester and everything from the plant all in one shot. And ice water hash and isolation is you're selecting the resin glands, right? 60% of the resin glands, in fact, and maybe 70% of the terpenes are in those heads only, but you're still leaving behind quite a bit that actually BHO picks up. And sometimes that's what you're looking at when you go to smoke. It's not necessarily in the head oil, it's in the secretions and the other oils around the surface areas. And so these things all play into the finished extract. And so the CRC came along when people were like, hey, we got a bunch of bulk biomass, floor trash, and shit that we don't know what to do with, that we can't get rid of. And we don't want to pay for someone to get rid of it. So the hazardous waste clauses in each state says, hey, you got to pay for this stuff to get rid of it. And so you got all this low grade shit, and then you got a bunch of low grade shit with fucking PM, and then you got a bunch of shit that looks just black oil, right? And
barrels of it.
Barrels of it. And there used to be like everywhere. Chris, the clear would clean shit up like that, and he had his own tech long time ago, and has his proprietary thing. And so somebody came along and said, hey, we're going to apply this other color remediation and corrective filtration systems on it. And from a science standpoint, it's pretty amazing. You take silicas and you just basically push things through filters that seem okay, inert, whatever. And
basically looks like creatine powder.
Yeah.
And it's like in a little disc or a chamber. Yeah. And the more creatine powder you put in,
filtration,
the whiter the rosin or the resin.
Resin, right. Yeah. And so it could take shit that's black into like crystal clear.
White.
It takes out all of it takes out every, PM and different shit that's in it.
But did we not know that before? Did we just not have that in our most extractors just didn't know about it, because now, even when I try to tell extractors now, like run it like back in the old days, they're like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah. They're like, yeah. And then when I get back, does not look like the old days.
Yeah.
And that's
Because
when I get fucked up. I'm like, no, dude, what do you mean? Like,
yeah. So I think that there is a purpose for it. So like, if you think about it, like you don't want to throw food away. Like I grew up in a family, we just don't throw food away.
Oh, dude, come on.
Right. Exactly.
Hey, come on,
so
man.
we're not throwing
The
anything
South,
away.
baby.
You know, it's like, yeah, no, that's coming this way on everyone's plate. You know, there's no food being wasted. So I think that like, it's the same concept. There is a place for it, just not in our lungs, just not in my lungs or anyone else's lungs. There, you know, there's a place for it. Now, if you were to say, hey, I'm going to clean up oil to get to a certain point, and maybe you're mixing it in with live resin and or a HTE whatever sauce, and you're trying to come up with something else, there might be a point to it. I just think that it's really good for food grade and an amazing product to get a healthier grade for digestion. Because at least with digestion, I feel safer saying, okay, I feel very confident that if something went through this process and went through CRC and you digested it, chances are you're okay.
See, this is why we need a lot. I just wish we talk about panels a lot, and we talk about people that need to be in positions of power in this industry, and not in a negative way, just in an informative, knowledge-based way. When these state laws come down, when we're really trying to develop products as an industry, because like what you do here and you guys, it affects the whole industry. You know, your knowledge and you being able to share some of this affects the whole industry, or whoever's listening. Right? It changes people's whole palette of their game, their tool belt. And I just think, man, there needs to be more knowledge passed from guys like you throughout the industry, because it's less scary for people now. Now they're more willing to accept a cured resin, or it doesn't seem like one's better and one's not as good. Or it also blows my mind that now when you brought up Chris with the clear, that there was distillate. That's what that was, right? Distillate selling for 40 to 60 a gram.
When you did the clear
to go from that to where now we are, where liters are almost sold as a commodity, where the price goes up, the price comes down, the supply goes up, the supply.
Like, what state are you in? Oh yeah, it's still 18.
Yeah.
Good for you.
And you're like, Cat 3, Cat 4? Oh, you can't get Cat 4 right now?
We talked to Canada, like, we're about 80, 85, and like 85 what? Like 85 cents. I was like, a gram? A gram? Are we talking about US or Canadian? It was like Canadian. I'm like, what?
How crazy is that, though, that market's gotten there? Do you think rosin will get there?
I can be honest with you, like we were talking about from Florida, and there's a lot of stuff going on. We're gonna do some investigative like journalism on our next like kind of thing. But you can go into head shops, get THCA, right? You can buy an ounce of rosin for like $200. It's like $8 a gram. I'm not really sure how it's even possible.
Wow, that's crazy. Because I know some bulk guys, some guys that are really bulk rosin guys, and I mean 10 a gram is about standard right now if you're buying, you know, from what I've seen, even if it's kilos and stuff. And that's usually somewhat peanut buttery, you know, and like if you can get the plug for, you know, obviously Michigan and certain places are fucking the whole market up, Oklahoma. And, you know, for real, I'm talking to you because between Oklahoma, there's a few states that came online after California that really twisted the market in a hole, but
it's always going to happen.
We won't blame you. We still got love for you.
Well, I think to answer your question, what I think we're seeing is there's a category of solventless. We're finally maturing to the point like this is a non-solvent category. And within this non-solvent category, we're going to have, and even in our own retail, we have value and we have premium, and you're going to have ultra premium, right? And so what you're seeing is that like just in flower, there's a $20 eighth, there's a $30 eighth, there's a $35, there's a $40, $45, there's even a $50 eighth. And then there's that fucking $120 eighth. You know, the same thing is happening in non-solvent, and the same thing is going to happen in the vape category. And so what ends up, I see vape kind of really coming together where it's like, there's live resin, live rosin, you know, and kind of when people get on to the fresh cure stuff and like, it's just going to become hash rosin. It's going to become live hash rosin. It's going to have like very simple categories, maybe 4. But in the hash world, I think we're going to have a lot, which is finally going to be fun. Just like you go to HQ or you go to these clubs like Terp Army, like, hey, you can get dry sift, you can get Moroccan hash. I didn't buy any of the new stuff. I didn't buy any of the rosin. Like, give me that, give me that Moroccan sift. Sure. me see what that's like right now. Give me some of that amnesia haze, that shit I never get. Like really, the
Like
stuff
real
that's super,
amnesia
it's like,
haze.
yep, let me have some of that. You know, because I want to see the progression, and like it's cool to see the static sift applied to Moroccan hash, because and you know, some of the people that were with me were old school. They're complaining about like, oh,
you were doing static so long ago. I don't know if I was in Amsterdam 6 months ago. So I remember I was at a club and I was looking. I'm like, oh, static. I like almost shot it and said it to him. Like, dude, there's like the new thing on some of these menus.
Yeah, fresh whole plant, fresh
applying static to all these other things.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, that's interesting.
It's definitely
Tony like with a park on, like it's really cold in that thing. This is a secret.
Could you explain, like when we talk static for people listening that don't know what static is?
Yeah,
what's that referring to?
So basically, what happened is the trichome heads when they're separated. Let's say on a you could use CO2 in a drum. You could use just a cold room and some screens, metal frame screens, in their nylon screens. And so what happens is a while ago, someone discovered, you know, just kind of like in the old school way, you take wool on PVC, you get static charge. And so in cold rooms, the static goes up as the humidity goes down. And so resin has this charge. It's either positive or negative charge. If you've ever separated rosin into THCA and you can never scoop it up with a dabber, you would see that charge. Sometimes you need to have an anti-static gun to change the charge. So the resin heads will carry with it positive, negative charge in stock. And so when you split them, you actually can separate the heads from the stocks in like 99%. And so there's a couple machines and players that really taken it a step further, which is drastically going to change all hash making on the planet. Because as that technology gets everywhere, like in Moroccan, you're like, cool, they're using static sifting Moroccan hash. So I want the old Moroccan hash, but I want it, cleaned up with plates.
Cleaned up, it's traditional. No, it's cleaned up because I mean, if you look at any technique years and years ago, people are only progressing and getting better. Why wouldn't we want that?
Right. And that's a category because when I go to buy a gram and the guy's like, I was like, what's the price? He's like, oh, well, it's $20 a gram for this, 25 for this like static sift, or it's 125 or 140 gram for live rosin. I'm looking there and I'm like, well, I could get a lot of fucking Moroccan static hash and a lot of weed from you and go ham on these giant joints, which is like, and I'm an extract guy, but what I'm here, that's what I want to do. That's immediately what I did was like, it's a hash hole. It's like, let me get something going that's like gonna like give me a different
experience.
That's another cool shout out to like Barcelona social club scene, what you were talking about. Yeah. The experience is just different.
We need what they have and they need what we have. And we joke about it so much. It literally, I probably said it on 5 pods, but it's like, we need the social aspect. We need these social lounges, these clubs.
Taste it, right? Like that's the coolest part, right? It's the best way to sell something. We're like, yo, try this. It's like, that's what happening all day. We're passing shit. I'm taking dabs with people and they're like, what are you smoking? I'm passing jars down. And then I'm trying stuff from London, extracts from London. I'm trying flower and it's my favorite aspect about this industry. And it's the one thing they won't let us have in the US.
Yeah, I would agree. The whole consumption, they've got it dialed in much better than anywhere else. This is the place
getting hot tea. Like, would you like anything else?
Real deal resin,
do you want it with ice?
It's real hospitality.
The selection, the menu is hype. Like it's real. It's like
Amsterdam has a good facet of it too. And it's weird because you think of Spain and its social lounge type of thing. You think of Amsterdam, it is way more of a coffee shop vibe. And then America, sure enough, we're dispensaries, production, run that money up, baby. But the actual enjoyment of it, fuck that. Take that shit home. Get that out of here.
And then, by the way, if you're home, don't fucking smoke it at home. No. You're going to get in trouble. We're going to find you. We're going to kick you out. We're going to take your kids. Yeah. You don't have a gun, do you?
Yeah.
You're never going to see your kids.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. But then you come here though, and you realize
like, this gun to protect my family. Yep. That's out of your hands.
And this to chill out so I don't drink and drive. Yeah. No, it is really weird how the more I see it from that side, I go, wow, yeah, we did lean into us and they leaned into them. But if we could get the social clubs, we talk about this market too of consumption and being able to try these devices. The only way I get to try it now is I either got to know somebody or I got to go to the store that carries it if they're willing to carry it or if they make enough money carrying it is kind of a lot. Where I love this part because I the amount of stuff I try that I've never tried before out here. I think that's why a lot of passionate people, creatives, fall into this where you're like, I want to do hash holes because I don't normally get to do that. Or like someone's going to come up to you and they're like, try this, try that, We don't have that as much in America.
No, not at all. I think they are on top. So, you think about where's the Spannabis going to move to, and it'll probably set up another city, close by or whatever. But if, this Barcelona is an amazing city. We've come at a time where it's like a little overcast and raining, but you can imagine what this place would be like in summer, springtime, magical in the wintertime. So it's like what's happened is now that we've got a capital, we have a consumption capital, and it's always going to be there. Whether this mayor is good or bad, it's temporary. Those clubs aren't going anywhere unless they raid everyone. And if they raid everyone, then the party's over.
No, the culture, especially the hash culture scene in Barcelona is not only here to stay, but it has a long heritage, and I think you gotta give respect to that.
I think there's a little bit of a passing of the torch, and I don't think they did it on purpose, but I think Berlin, the way Mary Jane Berlin's popping off, and just the amount of come on out, Cali brands, everybody, we'd love to have you. And then them kind of making this the last year of Spannabis in Barcelona, I think they inevitably are giving an opening, let's say. It's like if you're playing basketball or something, like you just kind of step to the side for a second. Is Germany going to become the next Mecca where we're flying out there and their hash culture is popping off, or their flower market is just something unbelievable? Or
I think inevitably that's going to happen at each place.
Yeah.
Europe is going to have its own threads, just like the US does. And it has a different scorecard, right? If you kind of think about it, they're playing a different game when it comes to the social aspect.
A lot of political, because you look at Amsterdam and you're like, they've been so oppressed. They went from being the Mecca to like, you kind of go there now for fun, but they had the throne, and it's like, it just kills me sometimes when you see them just kind of like, the government doesn't want it, or they don't know the impact financially that it really has. They think they do, but I don't think they do.
Yeah, and I agree. I think Berlin, we're going to be out there next. I mean, that tells you if we're going city to city, I would agree with you. It's something that's been, how long have they been repressed for? It's like they've been held back for so long. Germany could be a market that's like massively explosive, very fast.
Because I think we see that about cannabis overall, right? Yeah. It's been oppressed for so long with so many places.
It's like a pocket. It just opens up, boom, and then it becomes you'll just see what it happens, and that's definitely like going to happen there.
I'm interested in that. And so with this, you're calling it.
This is the Axle Mini Air, and it's designed to feel like air. It's definitely not going to clog on you, but I could time you.
And you guys have a great logo, by the way, Tony.
Tony, where's Tony's phone?
Absolutely gorgeous.
He wants to do a timer.
So I'm going full 10 seconds.
I want to give you a timer though. Who's got a
He likes to go very technical on this.
That's because everyone says like, oh, I don't want it to cut out on me or this or that.
No, I got to stretch out
10 seconds.
God forbid.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. Ready? 1, 2, start the clock and let them see it. All right. It's a lot longer than you realize. Just keep breathing. It's designed for that. There you go. There's 10 seconds. That's what it's designed for.
Yeah. Oh, tasty. Very
Good,
tasty.
Right?
Yeah. What is this? What's in this?
So that's Pioneer Farms out of Portland. He did a live rosin high chew. He did a drop over at Terps Army. So it's that rosin. We just did a little collab while I was here.
Oh, okay, I was about to say, damn, you literally went and got rosin and then put it in a pen? Yeah, no, you guys are...
Yep.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, here.
Oh, that's dope. Wow, that's cool. Okay. I had to make sure I was understanding what you're saying because I'm like, what? Wow, that's dope, man. So that's interesting, man. So you'll buy product out and about and then sometimes put it in your pen to what? Enjoy it or see how it acts?
Basically, it's a device for everyone, right? It's not a Blue River device. It's just that we're taking lead on it. And I'm hoping that everyone, it's more affordable than the competition. It's designed for hash makers, rosin makers. It's designed for consumers that want the cleanest, most efficient way to consume live rosin. And so this is round 1. I need feedback, and we can change anything, any little detail, everything you can possibly imagine, any little tweak. If everybody said it could use a little more flavor or it could have more cloud, anything can be tweaked in such a minute way, which is what's different. And so like people design stuff, they go get it made, they try to launch a business. It's incredibly hard to stay on your game, on the hardware game. There's really 2 options. It's either a US based Cannabis Group, or it's Big Tobacco, Big China. That's really your two choices. And so if you can work with someone and you can customize it, you know they're going to be there tomorrow. And, you know, if you're a big boy and you can, you know, be in the space right, you know, it's not terribly hard to see like why, you know, Active is who they are. And
I was about to say that Alex and Active
make that happen.
They trust you though too to say,
and I
like,
trust them.
Why do you think this is better? Because they could easily be like, no, from a hardware perspective, this is going to function better. And you could get to a point where you're saying, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but this tastes better, or this.
I tell them, like, I want to know with our team, like, we try I give props where it is. It just jokes internally in the company. I'm like, oh, dude, this is good. I just tried this rosin. It's fire. Tell me, what is it? You know, and so we're always constantly learning too. You know, I don't think we ever have this hubris in our mind that we're the best. No, we just have a purpose around what we're doing. And we're we're laser focused on it.
Yeah,
you know, we're committed to cannabis. That's who we are, what we care about, what drives us, what's brought us here. There are our roots, and it's honestly, again, it's a labor of love. At the end of the day, it's a passion for us, and I think working with people that care so much, because some of the extractions, some of the conversations we have is awesome. You know, that's the exciting part for us. And it's those little pieces, to his point. This doesn't happen with it just because one side of it or another side. It's always in collaboration, and it's always understanding what we need to learn. Not assuming that we know. It's always like, oh shit, I think I learned something today. When Tony talking about, I was like, oh fuck, I didn't even like think about some of those changes in the wash, right, from cured to live, because at a later process, you're doing it at a different format. And that's interesting, you know?
For that hunger for progression and knowledge is also why you were out late last night. It's also why, like, to be honest, like, you guys are who you are in the industry. And it also affects, and I say that because it affects our social lives, because it's the same thing when I go out with friends, I'm having fun. We're having conversations about business, about products. And I look at it like, damn, man, I'm learning a lot from just hanging out with certain friends on off time. Like, I literally learn in my off time like I learn in my on time. So, like, yeah, it's both. It bleeds over. And that's why I'm excited to sit down with you guys and talk about Active's products. And then now with Blue River.
What might be a good thing too is that the Sprout battery there, if you want to throw that to me.
Yeah, which one?
Above it says Sprout.
Yeah, the new one.
The new one.
Yeah, you were showing me that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, this is sick.
Yes. So this is pretty cool. So what's interesting about this just gives you...
And by the way, let me ask him something.
Okay.
Do you see how we got to the mini air? Because it's like air.
Oh no, it's funny that you said that, because as I'm holding it, I was like, wow, this is very sleek, lightweight. It made me laugh because I thought, I wonder if you could ever sell vaporizer or hardware that doesn't have a window, if consumers would trust you to have zero window and just trust us with what goes in here as what they put in, you know, but I love this because
you got to see the vaporization happen, and you can see the trough.
I like to see what I'm
saying. Air's design was specific too, because like it's a shorter version, obviously, of our Axle battery, which is one of the, it's built for mass market, but it's very different engine in there, right? And so it follows that design language, and that one was built because it was up to a 2-grammer. So the window was designed that way so that you could still see it. It's a peekaboo, right? You could see the clarity of everything, but at the same time, sometimes people don't like it when they think there's extract should be filled higher or not, or what it is, the weight, right? So it was, you'd be able to encompass that, and it just followed the design language. And it was just sweet when you shorten it down, you're like, it just feels good in your hand, It does.
Do you ever test how much pull people, or like what's a normal pull for people?
Because
you can tug on this and it goes crazy. Girls, I'm guessing people with lighter pulls would be like, I'm not getting it, and not.
If you just take a 3-second hair, I'm a 3-second to 5-second guy on that.
I was like, oh, you can crank on this.
You can crank on it. So I would say that's.
But then you gotta let off of it, a little bit.
But I would say that like that's what I like about this, and that's when you asked about the flavor thing and the details. So you get to the point where like, okay, wire size, ceramics, volts, ohms, and you're going back and forth. Oh, this one tastes better. And it may taste better, but is it delivering the effect? Because then you have to really be honest with yourself, because it's about effect and efficiency of the effect. flavor, while it might be good, you as a consumer who spends $50 plus on a device kind of cares more about the effect than the flavor when it comes to their money right now. And so they want a premium product. They're like, damn, that tastes really good, but I need to get high. And so I learned that the hard way over 5 years. Like I wanted really high terpene
We're
stuff.
not the traditional consumer.
No, you're right though, because if the pen is potent and if the flavor's missing after halfway through, I'll continue to do it. Right. Versus, yes, I want flavor, but if I feel like, man, I'm not even feeling it, I'll start huffing this motherfucker.
Exactly.
Gets you ripped.
You're right though, because I had to put my priorities in check real quick.
Right. And after a couple 10 seconds, like you feel pretty high. You feel like you took like a pretty good. Yeah. And the point was to make it so that if you're a 3-second person, you're going to get like 175 draws out of that. You're going to be the happiest person. You're like, this thing lasts forever. If you're the guy that like, I really need a fucking rep on the run, and you'll go 10 and then you'll take a big breath and you'll go like 6 or 10 again.
There's a funny video of him when we're doing R&D. We're like, fuck it, I'm going to blinker it. And he's doing it. It's just the coughing, you know. Like,
well, it was also like, it was also no limit on it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just, but these things all had to happen. And like, and we can, like, in the back of my mind, I know there was an option B that I could have went a direction.
For all you blinkers lovers out there.
But I do feel like you easily can take it there, because a true 10-second, it's a good happy medium, because it's like, I've wanted it to feel like you took like a Dr. Dabber or a Puffco or like what's the other one?
I didn't hit it hard enough. I realize that now that this thing's like a revved engine. I'm used to these ones where you got to do they always tell you, pull it low and slow because you don't want to overheat. And I'm like, Jesus, I'm trying to smoke here, you know? But
I'll go until I can't go.
Yeah, I can already.
The blinker is what's in my mind, right? Right. God. That's what I'm fucking talking about.
Yep.
You want a little head sweat.
Pull the head sweat.
Come on. You're not getting that out of other.
Hit the gas, baby. Hit that gas. No, and that's what I like about this is that I had my low and slow. That's what I did the first time.
Yeah.
And now I have I'm going to work for 8 hours. I'm not going to be able to hit this again.
That's what, I mean, a lot went behind it, you know? So I think
like a kid's game, you're like, man, I need to get high. I need to get out.
Well,
I need to get off.
No, one of my funniest things was back in the day, I tell this story, and I don't know but like I was smoking with Brad from 710 Labs, right? And we're taking dabs, and they'd like, you got to waste it to taste it. They're very much that, right? And they're smoking full melt that they're pressing out with a thumb, you know, and they're scoring the dabs. And I'd taken like 5 or 6 dabs off this crazy Quave piece that's like a 1 of 1, like some crazy. But I was just like, dude, I don't even know if I'm looking around kind of. I'm like, I'm not even fucking high. I took like 7 dabs of the craziest melt you've ever, you know, shit that's like, this is a 4-year-old Denver Cannabis Cup winner of melt. And I'm like, 4 years old? Or shit that you just don't have access to. I don't even have access to. And as soon as Brad like walked out and shit, I heated that thing up, and I was like 10 seconds early. I'm like, all right, here we go. And it was just funny because like, you know, Skelly was there, and I just like their hash maker, you know, and I felt like, it was like, no, whoa, you know, and it was like, no, I want to be able to tug on this thing and get a head change and be like, you know what? Because I find myself with a lot of the low and slow crowd, I find myself huffing this thing, and then my head change is just me getting out of breath from fucking pulling on this thing.
Exactly.
That's why you call it, that's so efficient. That's your definition of kind of efficient.
Yes.
This is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's really good. And
I really like this.
You know, for us, it's just about getting out there, because it's like creating NASCAR racing for everyone making hash, right? We're just trying to make hardware that's even. It's not Blue River hardware. It's active hardware. I just helped. I'm from Blue River. You know, I subscribed to it. We're switching to it. That was the calling. That's how this truly did happen. It's like, hey, I think it's time for us to try to make something together. And these are the components that I like about it. And, you know, it felt good to have that, because like there's little details, the little square, the bevels, it stays there. I don't want my thing to roll off the table. If I drop it on the floor, if I put it in my little man pocket here, I don't want it to break, you know, how it fills up and things like that. You know, a lot of little things. And so it's just like, and then all of this was done to make it more affordable than what's in the market. you know? So it's like, that's where like when we first started, it's like, hey, we want to make the better device, but do we both agree that we want it to be less money than everyone else? And when your answer is yes to both of those, that's what got me really going.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Because even though we talk about doing everything passionately and for all the right pieces, we also are running a business, you know? And so like, you got to be thoughtful about that as well. It's not easy, man, you know? And so there's a responsibility on all ends, right? I call it both the qualitative and the quantitative, right? You got to have both sides of it.
Yeah.
We talked about that last time, right? Know the game that you're playing, right?
Yeah.
And know set and setting, understand the stages and ages of where you're going through as a company, industry, product, cycles, all that stuff. And so that's a part of it. And we came around in another one when Tony moving back, going to Boston, in the store, going through that, it was a lot of change going on, right, from his California days. And I think when he got back to like all the washing in the lab and some of those pieces, I think he started like, okay, there's still this problem. It's like, and it just kind of, our product team was rosin's always been this squirrely thing, as you know, right? You asked the question when we started this, and I think it just kind of naturally happened. And I think that's the beauty of kind of what we love working with people that are, dedicated to their craft, are highly technical about it, really care about it. And that, I think that's the thing that drives us. At the end of the day, we're there to serve and work with others like yourself, Tony, other extractors. And how do we put that together? Right. So one of the stuff I would talk about is like a battery, like this is just some of the levers, right? What's cool about this battery, right, is we like to say that's for any extract. And we also have different types of carts, right, that we have. So there's the XL series, which is the wider body. And if you look at the 1 gram all ceramic, that has a different surface area to be able to handle more complex extracts in an all ceramic format. Because last time we spoke about it,
the Fat Boy.
The Fat Boy, yeah, because it has a different heat temperature range, right? How it heats and cools down is different than steel. And so that has an effect on the wick, if we want to say, I'm going to get blasted for saying that, but it's just, it's the mechanism to be able to have the oil come in to be vaporized, right? So that has a different relationship within a closed body tank. Same with steel. So what's interesting about this, right, is like your traditional 10.5 millimeter carts, also the XL carts that we've done, right? But what's awesome about this battery is there's 3 different settings on it, right? And so these are just some of the parameters levers that we mess with to do these type of things, right? So there's voltage, what everybody knows, but everyone's like, oh, it's got to be 1.8 or 1.9. It's not. Number one, all voltage is not created equal. How that voltage is delivered, right, and in what increments it's delivered, all that matters to create what you're tasting as a 1.8 or 2 or how it was set. And that's important for people to know. So your experience is very, very important to really understand. So with this, we give people more choice, right? So on the one part of it, you can go down by 0.1, right? And that's just for voltage. You could switch it now to pulse. So this is the pulse side of it. And this is how often is bringing power at that voltage. And then the third layer that you can now dial any further is wattage. So you can fine tune a little bit of that power of the voltage. So now you have these different bands and ranges to be able to add into a battery of different types of extracts. And then we'll have, obviously, we'll share it from our site and stuff. These are some of the recommended areas for resin, rosin, your distillates, your botanicals, right?
Damn, that's really cool.
So like, that's just an idea of giving choice.
It's a catch-all battery.
Yeah, it's a catch-all battery, right? It's the battery for every extract. And
I switched to that. I switched to a battery and it changed my whole game with was it 510 thread, I think, right?
So this is 510 thread. And again, this casing on it, right, allows to do that and has all this optionality. You could draw activate it, hold it with a button if you're a button featherer, right? It has preheat and it has all these different 3 layers of settings. And so you're giving ultimate control over to someone understanding kind of the extract and might want to do something at halfway down the cart, So that's another part of kind of the tools that we have.
Oh, that's so interesting. So you maybe start the cart in a different way than you smoke the back half of the cart. Very interesting. And then what would be the reason that someone would pulse it? Because it'd be people who like to press it and then unpress it and press it. You wouldn't have to do that.
For me, so for me, like how I feather a device when I'm vaping, it depends if it's just, I'll automatically pulse it as the way I like to, experience or how I intake. So like, even if it's just all all-in-one, I'm like feathering it with my tongue off the air hole, right? So like there's certain ways. If I want to taste it a certain way or I want to take a huge draw, I have a different method of what I'm going to do, right? So like I think in Smart Pulse is been in a lot of what we've done in the past, right? Of, you know, when you hold a battery, it's just getting hotter and hotter and hotter. So for us in the beginning, a long time ago, right, and all the original batteries they had, it would turn on and off. So it's as if you were feathering it. We talked
like
about
a haptic response.
Yeah, Tony would always call it feather tech, but it's really your hand on the power, right? And so now
it was
we've
a long
given
time
that
ago, I
choice.
used to say that. I'm like, well, we need to feather it. And, and then he's like, feather it. And I remember it's like, check this out. It's like
Interesting.
oscillating.
So this is also all the ways of how heat is delivered, right? So you got to know the extract though.
And this has some smart technology in it to that effect.
And like, look,
And then there's two shotguns here. So like, you just want to be careful of it, because if you want to pull hard and get big rips like that, just do exactly what you're doing.
Man.
And the other part too is that like, this is again.
And that's like some freshly cured, like clear tech kind of.
I just love this collaboration because both of you have business and passion at a pretty good balance. And obviously there's always one, obviously, you know, for different, everyone it's a little bit different. You know, they'll sacrifice creativeness or they're very well off, but it's cool because I see both of you, and then for you guys to come together to work on devices and then share knowledge that will now ripple effect active and how they're doing, just the feathering we're talking about. Like, that's epic. You had dropped off batteries, Alex, and I gave one. My sister likes vapes a lot, and I gave her one and she's like, it vibrates, or like it comes on, and I'm like, yeah. And she's like, this is awesome. The one where like it slips over the top.
Yeah, the alpha. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's just very interesting. And I love that you guys keep inputting all these creative changes. Like with that battery right there, I only have one thing. I can go up in volts or down in volts. And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, there are, to be able to buy a cart and then say, you know what? And then try it out and know this is how I like mine.
Yeah. Now you get to fine tune it even for that oil too. And like, I'm really excited about the future, right? Because we're going to talk again when a lot of things are in the pipeline for us, right? Because this, again, back to the mini air, and Tony knows at times too, like this is just the beginning of this journey into that world, right? And we've done a lot of R&D, you know, and there's a lot of R&D behind the scenes, and we're really excited about this. If you think that's good, wait till what we're going to do next.
I'm super harsh on these. Everyone always comes to me, and a lot of growers and friends, and we'll always pass these around. And some of my friends who are big in hash makers will always be like, that popcorn flavor, I can't get past. And I'm like, I don't really taste it yet, you know? And they're very harsh. Like, I've gotten to the point where I get spoiled on vapes because I'm around so many people who are constantly trying to big up. Like, I think this is great, dude. This is a really cool thing. Can you give a piece of advice on collaboration?
On collaboration in general?
Like doing something like this together, because I don't think this happens enough in our business, this coming together and working on projects.
No, it's definitely like Lonely Island type of business. You know, everyone tries to go to their island and like talk about other people's islands, even though they've never been to them or seen them.
I like that. Okay.
And that's what I see, like a whole bunch of islands. You're like, I know he's out there somewhere. And it's like once in a while, two people raft out and they meet, and I was like, dude, do you have an island? I was like, yeah, I got one right over here too. And like, I think that's because the OG and the old school method is like with this plant in the 90s and things. It was called Kind Bud. You knew friends. It wasn't like no one really made money on the super dank. It was like, oh, you can get an ounce of that. You're like, yeah, it's going to be like $350. And like, it was like no breaks, $400, $450, you know, and you were just so grateful.
You have the heads, you know?
Yeah. You're
so Florida.
So grateful to get that.
You
know, and that was everywhere across the country. There was a standard for this, and there still is. And the collaboration, so whatever it is, I'm going to say this. I'll just give you like a blank state, like whatever the collaboration is, if it's in the value lane, if it's on the top tier exotic, just make sure that two people that are coming together can like equally support the ultimate vision of what you're trying to accomplish. If your vision is, hey, we're going to make some cheap widgets, a pump and dump and flip it. You know what? I'm not going to stand in your hustle. You want spray packs as in your portfolio? That's up to you. You know what I mean? I'm not going to knock your hustle. Somebody's buying that shit. You know what I mean? And if two people come together like, hey, we're going to do this collaboration with that, and they both have the same end goal, it's like focus on the end goal and can you both bring something to it? a lot of collaborations have gone down. I've gone through a lot of different collaborations. The ones that work are the ones that where both people can add something to it, and you both have a vision that you want to stick to and see to the end. So I think they're all good. Just like if you don't have that, or there's like other motives why people are doing the collaboration, like some people are just like, hey, I want to do a collab with you, and then never again do a collab with you.
Because you brought up Chris from the Clear, right? And so I think about Baroni, and that collaboration and how that was something really cool. Like we get to see these glimpses of when companies come together and knowledge comes together and funds and, you know, passion and this chase of what, a year or however long it took to get this to where you're happy with it, or on version 1 in your hands. It just doesn't happen enough. And when it does, we get to see these really cool things happen.
It's multiple versions, but it's just a version of 1 right now.
No, I already know that. I know from knowing you.
Well, and I think that like it also comes down to when we were talking about the oil, and I think at some point, like especially for decarboxylation and methods, like really I'd say my recommendation is kind of a pro tip. And it's like, we're not holding this information hostage, by the way. Like this isn't like something I'm trying to like oh my God, I'm trying to move the needle. Like if you look at the vape market, it's like 5.8 billion. 4% is solventless. 4%. Okay. If we can get it to 6%, I feel like I'm doing a good job as an ambassador in that side. Like, cause that's what I see myself. That's where I want to focus is on the solventless side and get more and more to the masses. And so my advice is understand the plant and understand that like fresh, like clear tech, fresh press should be designed for vape. And that's what we're doing here. It's my mentality is already here. Like, yes, it can accommodate other decarbs, right? But this is also going to shine. Like what you're trying is some really fresh shit. Look at the color of that oil. It's almost crystal clear.
No, yeah, it is damn near clear.
It's damn near clear. So it's like, that's single source, living soil, craft, small batch, under 200 grams, probably, you know, total. It's like, that's like the top. And could it get a little better? Probably so. But it's like you're dealing with, like, we're showing you the hardware in a top manner. Like this is a 90U, the best of the best. You know, it's done in a way that's decarboxylated, where instead of fully decarboxylating, you're getting it to where it's clear tech and it's like 60, 75%, just to see if that vapor could handle it. And it can, you know, it's a very cool device because you can go super high end with it and you can get that, you know, premium select full spectrum, all 6 washes. It's going to handle it both.
That's why I like this collab though, because him just dropping those points right there is so much information that I don't think a lot of people would even think about when they're going into trying to perfect a handheld, I guess a handheld vaporizer, you would call it. Handheld device.
Yeah, I mean,
mobile vaporizer.
Mobile vapor device.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's also tough, right? And you've talked about like people doing a 3-second hit. It's like a quick dab, you know, or a 10-second, right? But people don't like they vape differently with other extracts. Some people just get on and huff on it with the high quality extract, and they know what's in it. There's different ways to sip it. There's different ways to experience it. And sometimes that's not the best to have to educate everyone around that. But I think if you know, then you can work with it that way. And it's fun to do that. You know?
Well, and I think that, and I touched on it before, like, you know, I'm sure your audience will get upset about it, but there's hash makers that hate on decarboxylated oil for vape. They're just, I'm not going to smoke any vape. I'm just going to dab hash, or I'm going to dab rosin. You brought up something earlier. Oh, I'm just going to press this hash out and dab it a little hotter. Well, you've been around long enough, so you'll appreciate this. We used to just get the full melt hash, spread it out, press it between, you know, parchment or your finger. You'd make like the finger hash real thin, and you put it on our titanium screen on a D nail or an E nail, right? And then we'd set it for a temperature, and we forget that was on there for 3, 4, 5 minutes. And we'd set it to low temps, remember? And we'd wait for it to bubble up, and we'd have these big giant domes. That was the actual original shit. I had that on the first runs of the mothership, you know, and that was like the smoke hash, and you let it bubble. But think about the process. We actually bubbled it. There's probably a little bit more decarboxylation happening. If you're taking a hotter dab, that's like some people run to the red side versus the blue side. They're really getting a faster reaction and getting more decarboxylation. And so when the key here is getting either 75% or full, because when you're vaporizing it this way, not combusting it, you're getting a 99% conversion of all the available cannabinoids, flavonoids, terpenoids, esters, depending on how you preserve this and how you cure the resin from the plant to the cart. So there's many ways to get to it, but ultimately that's the thought process of why we say
deep.
Tell me you don't want to smoke a pen from this guy. like I'm just being honest. Like, I mean, this is as deep as you can go into developing,
I want to get high from a fucking mobile device.
At a scientific level.
But do you not, like, you're tired? I'm like, I got to get a hit. And we were going through this, like, dude, I want to take 10 seconds, full all out. And when I let go, I want it to be like I took a dab because I don't have time. I don't even have time anymore to set up. I just want to be able to move and keep it moving. And I think that's probably motivation. It's like family, business. You're fucking working 18, 20 hours a day. It's difficult. You're traveling a lot. It's difficult. It's discretion. It's like.
Well, and you're also, though, both of you are around a lot of the top players in the industry who are, when I say top, I don't mean a negative. I mean, literally in producing and production and innovation. So for you guys to also be able to hand them products and be like, what do you think about this? Or, yo, check this out. It's just that is so critical in the development of this new line and where you're going with it. Man, this is awesome. So what's next?
Stay tuned.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool shit coming from Active.
You'd have to sign an NDA for Smoke Family, and we can't send it through the camera. So
we will stay true to who we are. As we always talk about being committed to the plant. Like everything is driven from the passion of that. All the R&D that we do and the solutions that we want to provide to the industry. It's working with extractors, companies, understand, and ultimately the consumer, right? Ultimately, how do you have clean, excellent performing, reliable devices for your oils and your extracts, whatever the modality or method. And I think the cleanliness part, one thing that we do that's big is about the safety regulations with Vape Safer. Those are a super big part of it, right? Toxicology studies,
COAs, manufacturer safety data sheets,
scientific papers, white papers, understanding the different type of puff topography. There's a lot of data on our end that we've been doing to understand how vapor density works, how it works with us, how people actually vape, how they dab. This is important because regulators, man, they might decide to make a rule that fucks all of us. And so I think we want to make sure that there's the right data, speak their language the way that it needs to be done, and obviously brought in the right forums so that they see that this is not only responsible, this is the standard that should be set, this is the way that things should be made, and these are the type of testing regulations and parameters we should have because we're all consuming this. I can confidently say I know who made the oil, how it was made, what was put in there, how that device was created to know that that's going to produce something that's as clean, flavorful, and reliable and performing the way that it does.
And beyond that, the plastic isn't leaching into the oil and we're not smoking microplastics. We're not all these little things like you just talked about, the harmful, reading up on these studies, like that's beyond what most people go into. It's like, hey, how is it smoking?
Just like how deep you go into the growers, how deep you just went into that. For us, it's a responsibility. I told you that before. It's not like we had this great idea of being a hardware company. That's not what happened. We solved a problem that was for ourselves, and then just being curious in that process, like, well, fuck, how is this made? How is that made? I don't know what's put in. And so those standards start happening all the way down the chain, and then when you start learning about that, you're like, holy shit! Like, there's a level to this that's very important. And for us, it's because it's cannabis. It's not because we're selling e-cigarettes, right? And they have very different standards around that. They're using a very different input liquid than we are, right? And so that's important. That nuance is very, very important because it creates the outcome that we're talking about. So when we talk about what's next, is just know that like we're never going to stop innovating. We're never going to stop having excellent client service for our customers and people and serving the people what we do because that's why we exist, and so I think that's the responsibility that we have, and that's our promise to our clients, it's our promise to the industry, and we're going to continue to do that. And I'm just really excited about what's next because at every stage that we go, it's just a step, right? The journey's long. We know where we're trying to get to, and as technology becomes more available to us, the tools that we get to use, I think we're going to get better and better experiences across every single format. And we're going to make sure that that happens.
I liked how you touched on your like smoking fingerprint is what Dr. Riley Kirk said, right? The way you smoke something, everyone has like a double puff or a single puff.
100%.
Or, what would you call it?
Puff typography.
Puff typography. I like that, man.
We have a program called Get High for Science. I mean, it's a whole thing, but like
when I went and visited their office, they had, I had to strip down to my underwear and I had to put this helmet on that had devices. They put suction cups. They shaved my chest.
All to make this.
They put me in an active jumpsuit. Okay. In a cold box room. And that was part of their puff training.
He said, breathe normal.
Yeah. He said, act normal, breathe normal, start taking puffs. Right. It was 1 second, 2 second, this went on for weeks. I think you guys brought me food. I don't even know what happened.
I think you did. Yeah. No, it's so interesting because when Dr. Riley was on, when they were doing the science of smokability, she referenced that. She's awesome. And she just referenced that it's almost like someone's fingerprint where everyone, the way they inhale, we started realizing that there's similarities, but everyone's is different and how long they hold it and how long they exhale. And she's like, it almost really turned into a graph. And I was like, wow, it'd be so cool to have that on the wall as a piece of art. And you're like, that's how I smoke.
All these inputs of information help us inform one other airflow, tank size, feel, how it's being delivered, all that stuff. Because it's.
There was a time I said to you, I don't think we're going to get there.
Yeah, oh my God.
You love when your business partner in the project
was at the finish line. He was at the finish line and he's like, what do you think, man? I was like, I don't know, man. This is the first time I've ever thought that. I don't know if we're going to get there.
Yeah.
And he was like, really? I'm like, yeah, we're going to have to start over. And he was like, wow, with the body? I'm like, no, the shape of it's great. I was like, we got to keep working on this fucking ceramic.
Yeah, the engine.
Everything else was good. And I was like, we got to keep working on it. And then I had to ask more.
But all that stuff to that point, though, that sparks like more iterative changes for everything that we do. And so that's why we're so excited of the pipe. It just keeps building.
Yeah, exactly.
Every time I met you, there's a pipeline. It's been added on to, and there's a focus around it. And so it's great as like new things become available. And again, we're just really excited when we get tied together, get the right partnerships in place. And I think it's going to be good for clients, good for the consumer, good for everybody.
And that's
what's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is this available? That's what I wanted to ask. Like, okay, I'm a brand who grows and makes rosin and all this stuff. And I've been trying to find the right vape. Like
it's available now.
I can reach out to Active and 100%. And I can honestly
customize it whatever you want. You don't need our logo on there.
Wow. Very cool.
The whole point is, like I said, it's NASCAR. We all want the same thing, right? We need to get categories of vape. I need an all-in-one postless, wickless. That's what I need. I need a, next thing. I need a 510. You need these categories and you need value and you need tier and you need these things because the consumer needs it. I have retail that demands it. And so the faster we can get there, it's about standardizing the device so we all can appreciate the different oils. So now we're not talking about the device anymore. We're like, hey, did you try this live rosin or that live rosin or this live rosin? Yeah, I wasn't able to get the baller bucket, but I got this thing on the go. And that's what it needs to become like that situation. And as people mature, as you get older, if you got kids or you got different things in life, you just mature the way that you consume cannabis.
Is this something so usable that, let's say I'm just a consumer of rosin and I buy rosin in the market, but I enjoy this pen or I want a delivery device that I can be discreet with, but I want to fill it with my own product. I don't want to have to buy it from a rosin manufacturer. Is this something that you can purchase and fill yourself yet?
Well, I think there's distributors that we have as well for like smaller sizes that do pick and pack. And so you can order them, I think, through them. And I think if people just follow what they're going to do to actually make it so that's in liquid form.
That would be the SOP you have to figure out.
That's always tough, right? Because like that's a very different side of it. We're B2B, right?
I would say in this world that's designed for. There's like 3 to 4 ways that people could be decarboxylating, and when they're doing it, whether it's cured or live, that's going to accommodate it. It's designed to accommodate. But what I will say is like solventless is not forgiving, right? Like if you're like, and that is like
coming
that's
in
going
hot.
into 4K, right? We're going from jumping up to 4K. We're going from SD to 4K. We went from SD, HD, 4K. And so it's putting like a microscope on your oil. That's all I'm going to say is that you need it. It makes you step it up again, because that's going to be able to show it off.
Yeah.
And you want to be able to say, yo, I put like the super fire in that.
No, I can't wait to show this to
It's the
a few
same thing when we
guys.
talk about at the first time that I was on the show with you was we talked about the bands, the variants, right? The stability bands, right? You have your distillates and botanicals, you have your live resins, and you have your rosins. It's the same thing with different engines and different types of hardware. They have different bands. And so when you take shorter bands on a shorter complex rosin, higher end product, there's a lot more variability. And I think that it's very hard to do that without understanding being a cannabis person.
I agree. Where can they find you both if they want to ask you questions and bother you and ask you about the collab and be like, what do you mean no wick? How is that even possible?
I mean, he deals with that.
The wickless warriors.
Here's what the Active's website under products. They have a section.
Contact us.
No, it's an Axle Mini Air.
Yeah, there's a whole thing. There's a whole
page. There's videos. There's a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There's a cool intro that we did with it, and that was really cool to see the teams get together for that. It was pretty good content. Our team did a great job.
We're gonna keep that kind of rolling too. So
it was cool. It was fun. Yeah.
So where can they? Obviously, Alex.
Yeah, active. Active710.com.
And ours is blueriverterps.com.
Yeah. And it's been cool to see your journey, and it's finally cool to sit down with you.
Appreciate that.
And then to see this collaboration happen, it's like, it makes so much sense. Like, it really does. Like, I just want more of this for the industry, you know, knowledgeable people who have passion in business on both sides, do right by each other, and then create a cool product for the whole industry to enjoy and kind of level up a little bit.
Yeah.
We have so much smoking devices out where either meant for tobacco or meant for e-juice or meant for this or meant for 100 other things, but not cannabis. So it's cool to see that, man. Yeah. First smoke of the day, Blue River, Active, Spannabis, we out. Peace.
Peace.
First Smoke family, if you want more video, unreleased content, stuff we can't put on YouTube, you want early drops, weeks and weeks in advance, FSOTD.com gets you all that. You become part of the family, you get hooked up with early content, you get unreleased content we can't put out on YouTube because we get age restricted and we get strikes, the whole deal. FSOTD.com gets you hooked up like family. But if you just want to keep watching, here we go. Let's let another one roll.